Hey guys, and welcome to my patch 5.0 Runeterra Open Meta analysis. In this video, I'll go over basically every deck that I think I'll see inside of this current format rotation for the Runeterra Open that I believe, as of today, is happening 3 days from now, starting on the Saturday. So this video will just basically go over my thought processes on the current meta and what decks I will be bringing to counteract the current meta. Now,
Just to put this out there, these are my credentials. They're not technically legitimized. I had done much better with a peak rank of, I think, 299-ish on Masters before I decided to just completely lose it all. So, anyways, without further ado, let's go on to the first, thing. I'll reveal the decks I'll be playing. So, for this discernible format, I will be bringing 3 decks to the rotation format. Now, for those that don't know, basically Runeterra works with a ban format, where once you ban the first deck, the other 2 decks that you have to play, basically, you have to win, basically, with the other 2 tournament decks in order to win the round, as they work in the best, first player to 2 wins formats. Therefore, if you're going the best case scenario is you go 2-0 and then you win, correct? But there's also the chance of going 1-1 or going, or rather, if you go 1-1, then it becomes a 2-1 scenario, and as such, becomes quite difficult to pull a win afterwards. So the reason I bring these 3 is all for a pretty good reason, as I'll get into. So starting off from left to right, basically, for the first deck that I am bringing in Scion Reborn. I really, really believe that Scion sits in a very, very weird and good spot in this tournament, and I'll get into as to why. Next is Elder Dragon Nora. This is the deck that basically I climbed to higher ranks in Masters Division with. I'm just very, very comfortable with this deck, and I do think the fact that Nora's portals and the special cards that you can get off of random basically the random spells available in the Vandal region are very beneficial in this tournament, especially Early Bird is phenomenal into a deck that actually honestly many decks in this format. Next, Fizz is actually funnily enough a flex spot. After this video is posted, I may have switched this to Jace and Heimerdinger, a deck that I tested quite a bit before coming into this format. Or I might be playing a different type of deck depending on how this format plays out. This is basically a flex spot, and I don't think that I will basically be really using this deck. And I'm honestly putting this here as the deck that I hope that gets banned every round because of how recognizable it is. So going on to the first deck that we're going to be concerned about. Anyone who has played LOR in the current format iteration understands that Elder Dragon Morgana with Galio is the best deck. Inarguably because of how you can deny a lot of spells with Mage Seeker Inquisitor by putting Suppression in hand, which honestly I do think Suppression needs to be nerfed. Suppression should be a 1 cost, or at least honestly doesn't do much. All the Mage Seeker cards are just too good with their own region, and the combination is really ridiculous. Galios plus 0/3 on all units is honestly something that needs to be addressed after this. However, just to put it out there, I think all the decks I'm bringing into this format actually are in a really good spot to counter this. Scion and Sounds deck, why it's so good into this matchup, is because of the fact that a lot of the units that you play early on can basically interact with the board that they put out. And a lot of them are basically above 3 costs, or they don't care about the 3 cost restriction that some of the cards play. Suppression is still annoying, but I can basically go and kill my own units that are shackled to kill higher units. Galio is still annoying with Spell Shield, but whenever you would deploy Galio, I would basically have a balanced game state for when it does get summoned. As for my other deck, Elder Dragon Nora, like I said, it's just comfortable. There is cards like Early Bird, and there's also cards like the ones that recall 3 or less power cards that are very, very phenomenal into that matchup. While it does suck that Nora can get shackled early on, and Suppression basically is really annoying into the deck, and the card that makes, sorry, I forgot its name directly from my mind, spell cards at 1 cost, turn to 3, is still really good. I still think that I'm very comfortable, and I do still think, and the Fizz, Yuri one is just, I'm very comfortable with the deck. I think it's very good. Next, there's 2 variants of this deck. There is both Teemo Yumi and Fizz Yumi. I think this is definitely the one that's going to cause problem more is Teemo Yumi. I do not think that this is a deck I really have to be concerned about, because that there is no Fizz, and I would basically opt into playing decks with a lot of interactivity with it. This is one of the decks I justify my reasoning for. Instead of playing Fizz Yumi, I would go and play decks like I would play decks like Jace, Heimerdinger over, because this is one of the decks that it's very hard to play around. In fact, I'd like to reckon that the deck that I want to play most is the Scion deck, has a really bad matchup into this type of deck because of the express fact that they can't really deal with really good low drop cards and prank. Next, Mordekaiser Morgana. Mordekaiser Morgana is probably one of the easier matchups I'll be faced with, because I play cards in Scion which just kill everything or Ruination the board, right? I never really have to deal with Mordekaiser's level up and all that stuff, and the shackles really don't do anything to me because I usually end up killing my own units. Elder Dragon Nora. That deck is also very good into this because I know all the small caveat points, right, where I have to play around it. One thing I do not like about the Mordekaiser matchup is I do, however, unfortunately, have to hold a lot of high power cards like Lord Broadbane has to basically always there. And if I do get Death Grasp or Hate Spiked early on in the game, I do lose a lot of advantage if I don't basically put them on Do You Have Pie Toss or something like that. Fizz Yumi is phenomenal in this matchup. They can basically never kill it. They don't play any cards with Challenger, so until they Mordekaiser drop, but basically before then I could close out a game state. Karma Set. Now, this is one of the weirder matchups. I don't think any Karma Set variant is very standardized. There's many set versions of this deck. There's Seraphine Karma Set Freljord, or a bunch of random matchups. I do not, Karma Set's a very, I think, matchup that a lot of players that I talk to don't understand. like if you're underneath Master Elo. But I think after I played in Master for a bit, I realized that this deck is not as strong as it seems, because Karma is still a card that needs to be placed on when it's like a 10 drop, right? So basically, I'm gonna hope that my matchup knowledge and just basically, I want to basically force out game, so I'll probably still go for probably Fizz Yumi, which does get to dodge a lot of the cards, or I'll go Silent into this matchup. Next, we're going into the aggro decks. So all three of my decks that I'm running have like okay matchup like experience into aggro. I will say Scion, the Scion deck basically denies Pike Rek'Sai from playing because of all the cards being able to destroy themselves and destroy opponent. However, ironically enough, the same deck sucks into Annie Jin because it can stun so much and because their one drops are so much more effective. Same logic with Gwen Zed because of exclusively, I believe, the card, the one that starts 2 Dragon attacks. It's so good into my deck because of the fact that I can't block with the card Undying. As for the other decks, I'm more comfortable in playing Elder Dragon Zed, no sorry, Elder Dragon Nora into a lot of these matchups because of cards like Pie Toss, Group Shot, very good into these matchups. And I also get to play in others, like stuff like that. Ironically enough, now that I've like gotten to this point of the video, I do think I actually might kind of have gaslighted myself to go back to playing Jace Heimerdinger, because Jace Heimerdinger also has a very great matchup into all of these, especially into Gwen Zed with the card Passage Unearned. So that is something I will probably bring up into contention. Next, we play mid-range. There's supposed to also be Jax Ornn here, but in tune to the fact I want you guys to watch a Subway Surfers video on the side here, I think it's pretty great that I didn't include it here. Jax Ornn is also a deck that is probably included in the mid-range category. For all the ones here, Scion has a great matchup into Elder Dragon Aura. It's just a lot of matchup knowledge I have from spamming ranked games. And yeah, honestly, at this point, I'm probably going to go back to Jace Heimerdinger because they all have really great matchups into it. Passage Unearned is a super slept on card this format that a lot of people are not looking into. So yeah, next we have control decks. If I see a Rise deck, I'm just going to forfeit. Like, I don't like the deck, but I do think it's very easy to beat, right? A lot of these decks with control, there's not like a specific matchup knowledge that you should really know, or at least I believe that I should know. By the way, at this point in the video, if you're still following, please feel free to leave comments, as I would really, really like to know what you think about my thoughts and how I can improve as a player. So I don't think Rise is like a very great deck to play in the format right now. I still see a lot of it in like ranked, therefore I'll just bring it up in conversation. Heimerdinger Jace, a lot of my matchups, especially Scion, has a supremely good matchup into this because I literally could not care less if my units get destroyed. The only card I do care about is a 6 cost that I believe obliterates the units, which is really unfortunate. And Maokai Mordekaiser is an extremely, extremely interesting matchup because there's not really a way to play around it, and I believe Maokai Mordekaiser, unlike what some of my friends say, I do not believe that this deck is considered like tempo or something. I believe it's a control deck because Watery Grave is only meant to close out the game. The game plan of Maokai Mordekaiser before that point is completely control. There's like, you just want to control the game today with like saplings, cards like that toss, and then cards that like make sure you don't die, right? Now, feel free to argue on me there, and then we go to tempo. I don't think any of these matchups are hard at all with any of the decks I'm currently playing. I just don't think tempo decks are in a particularly good place this format. Because I still think, and I don't think I'll see a lot of these in the matchup, because problem with tempo decks is you would have to sacrifice Elder Dragon in deck building. You can only play one Elder Dragon, and there's much more better Elder Dragon variants that you can play instead of these, so I'm pretty confident that I won't be losing to any of these randomly. Okay, now that we're at the end of this video, I'm just going to do a really quick rundown of every one of my deck thoughts other than the ones I haven't mentioned. Aatrox Equip deck, I don't think it's real or legitimate. Poro King I don't think has been very good after the new release because of how much better that the Galio deck is. Ari Kennen, if I play into this, there's not much I can do. Elusives are a very interesting unit I can play against, so I'll just try to figure out and hope they don't play that like they break. Jinx Kennen, the other premier aggro deck, I don't understand the game plan of this one, and I'm just hoping no one decides to play it. Nico Teemo, the problem with Nico Teemo decks is still kind of the same. Ever since I think it's called Glacial Sarong, it became a 9 cost, and it's just not as good anymore. And another problem with the deck as well is the fact that you can usually tell what the Nico is if you ever looked at a Nico deck. Nara Zed, all these decks like Nara Zed and all of these, or Darius Nar, or like Gwen Zed, and these, I feel like they all fall under the same thing, where if you just understand how any aggro deck works, it's very easy to counter. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching my video, and I hope I do well on the event.